on to a Big Ten game. We'll see what your perception is of a
Oh, here we
different
go. Here we
conference.
go.
Indiana, a 4.5-point dog at Northwestern. So Northwestern conversely favored by just under 5. Total in this game on the open, 141 and a half, 7 p.m. Eastern time tip on the Big Ten Network. What does shot quality have to say here?
We do not like Indiana, Eli. We are a little bit down on them. A 23% record luck difference, expecting this to be a 10-9 team in their 19 Division I contests so far. They're 14-5. Again, a lot of that kind of comes from the win percentages, not like the discrete win expectancies. So like expected to, the Iowa loss was a big one, no chance to win. But then also something like Penn State, they won that game, expected to lose by 5 on the road. There's a bunch of other, expected results earlier in the season, December and November especially. So some of the foundational stuff there for Indiana is pretty interesting. 1-point win at Ohio State was a win. But, Illinois, the spanking was legitimate. Iowa, the spanking was legitimate. USC, okay, a nice home win there, but maybe a little bit of a difficulty for a travel spot for a new team in the conference. Not really sold on how they defend the 3. Not really excited about how little they shoot the 3. They move pretty quick, so if it doesn't go well, it gets ugly quickly. And again, the problem really comes down to, some of these numbers look good, but when you do it for just how they look in the conference, they're getting outclassed in a lot of places. They don't force turnovers nearly enough. The shot making is the worst in the Big Ten, 34th percentile nationwide, 18th best in the Big 18. Out of coaching, out of timeout, SQ points per possession, offensively, worst in the Big Ten.
Who's worse, Kyle Neptune or Mike Woodson?
If you want to go out of timeout, Woodson goes 0.85 and 1 on defense, so he defends. Defends it pretty well. Which is average, I guess. Let's see. Villanova has been okay. Let's see. Out of the timeout, Villanova's been pretty good. So I think that might just be, maybe some of the talent. And exactly. So, they can just sort of slap him on the ball and get some good denial or even off ball. And they do a good job in terms of, some of the rim and 3 rate allowed that, I think Indiana would love to adopt. It's just on offense, they don't shoot enough 3s. And then
don't have besides Luke Goody.
Right.
And this goes without saying when Malik Renew was healthy and now he's not playing, and it has paid dividends to an extent, but even so, they don't have enough shooting. If you look at where their efficiency ranks across college basketball, not just in Big Ten play, 279th in Division I.
Yeah. And look, this isn't like some major thing. This is a few points in either direction. You can compare SQ to KenPom pretty easily by looking at when you go take a look at the efficiencies for KenPom. So Indiana sitting at 112.6 offensively. You go over to shot quality. Their offense is 1.13. So pretty similar there. And then on defense, shot quality is 1.01. And on KenPom is 98.7. So that's where the big difference is that shot quality expects a solid 3% regression defensively here for what Indiana's doing. So if they were performing that much worse, and you essentially moved them from like that adjusted efficiency there at 59th in KenPom, which is currently 13.86, you move them down to like a 10.86, then they're like a top 80 team is what SQ kind of sees based on the KenPom numbers. So, is that enough to get a 3-point edge in the market? Yeah, I do think so. If you trust the shot quality data, there should be a nice little boost there also to Northwestern. So I do think this is one of the stronger plays out of the ones we're discussing here today. Northwestern's been a team that has, maybe run into some tough opponents as well. It's never easy to play Michigan State. You never look good in that scenario, and they lost by 10. Shot quality only expected a loss by 2 on a 2.5-point spread. And I think you and I both lost on that game, Eli. We both had Northwestern against MSU. And then they beat Maryland on an expected loss. So they kind of got a little bit of that bounce back and then looked good against Michigan, covered on an expected 16-point loss on the road. So played really tough. So, it's not always a crucifixion when a team outperforms shot quality. Yes, it could, regress, but it also is a good thing. You want that. You want to be able to see that. If a team never outperforms their expectations, you should start to be able to predict that they never will again. You want to see that dance around both sides of the expectation because that's what a normal team does. Northwestern can finish at the rim well. They're pretty heavy in the post.
That's the thing. So on the other end of the floor, this is my gripe with Northwestern, and it's interesting because very similar roster construction up front, or at least in terms of your starting center, going back to last season, and Northwestern's post-up defense and pick-and-roll man defense, for that matter, really, really struggling. Like, we're talking 7th percentile pick-and-roll man and post-up defense in the 12th percentile on a points-per-possession allowed basis. Umar Ballo could very well pick them apart. But I will say my one concern with Indiana is the takeaways from the Ohio State game. Played well over the course of 50 minutes to win that game in overtime, but no Devin Royal for Ohio State, who is very underrated on the glass and an underrated scorer mid-range and around the rim and can even space the floor inconsistently, but still a big piece nonetheless on that Buckeyes team. So I make this line around Northwestern -3, -4. I don't find any value, and I struggle with takeaways from both of these teams last set of a couple games because even Northwestern, the Michigan game, I kind of go both ways. Like maybe Michigan is overvalued a little bit in the market, but Maryland should have beat Northwestern on the road if they hit their open threes.
Yep, without a doubt. And again, it's not the easiest sell, but it's a good spot for if you trust the shot quality to come home there a bit. It's Northwestern's an interesting team for sure, and I think definitely a lot of difficulty comparing them to the rest of the conference, but they're still a good team because again, the Big Ten loaded. And I think their main thing that really keeps them kind of going for Northwestern is the possession battle. They're not going to they're not going to turn the ball over, and they're going to turn you over. Indiana's not going to force that ball out of their hands. So yes, they might not take the best shots. And yes, they might not play the best defense when you get a shot. But they're going to get in those passing lanes. They're going to make good passes. They're going to create some pretty good spacing. And, Indiana's going to be amazing at finishing at the rim. But at some level, I think you almost let Ballo beat you and you don't overcommit and you don't let them open up the spacing on the threes and you try not to foul and you maybe attack him on the other end and try to get him in foul trouble. And and then you let them kind of go inside because they're gonna be able to beat you inside. The worst thing you can do is let the shooters get open looks, and then it's this combination of the gravity.
The one thing with Indiana's offense, like you mentioned, if they do double or if they don't decide to double Ballo, play him in single coverage versus if they do, if he gets cooking early on, Indiana 41st percentile in cutting efficiency, so buckets off cuts per synergy. It's not elite. Like Mbako is a stud athlete, but he's not terrific at finishing off of cuts.
Again, you don't overcommit. You don't let them kick out too much. It's not going to be easy. Obviously, easier said than done. Oh, just don't do all the things you shouldn't do. Bowling coach, knock down all the pins, Justin. You want to run Green Bay's basketball team? It's
that's for Doug Gottlieb and Doug Gottlieb only.
I agree. I wouldn't take the job. I got too much other stuff going on.